We'll say it again. Welcome to day 11. Day 11, wow. Hyperspace or hypersleep, rest recovery, 31 days of conscious relaxation. Our hyperspace mission for January is to integrate, to rest before we launch forward, right? We're still in like the pocket of winter, contraction, and building some resonance and some consistency with our mindfulness until we move into the quickening right at the beginning of February. February, everything starts to like, wow, come back to life. You know, you got daffodils and hyacinth coming out of the ground, depending on where you are. You have the first of spring bird migrations. It's like everything happens. So we got this pocket of time in January to really focus on what's going on inside and help to stabilize ourselves before we launch into the spring, the summer. We find ourselves in the fall and then the winter again. Wow, time just is an illusion, but it always moves too fast, right? It moves fast when we're in a sympathetic nervous response. We always think we're running out of time, right? That's the fight, flight, freeze. We don't think there's enough time we're worrying, we're anxious. We don't think that there's enough time. And that thought projects into reality that there's not enough time. And we spend so many hours, become days, become months, become years of our life worrying rather than just stopping, coming back to ourselves, relaxing, noticing, hey, I can only do one thing at a time. I can only do a certain amount of things in a day. And let's not think about that stuff right now. Let's just pull ourselves within and reset and come back to the self. And when we switch the nervous system over from that sympathetic state to the parasympathetic state, time slows down. Seriously, like that's the point of this whole process, is coming into presence. It allows us to expand the moment, and it allows us to really fill our lives with content. I mean, like contentness, right? So, part of that and part of this stabilization leads us into talking about the energy locks tonight. So, we're gonna have like, it's gonna be like an interactive kind of lecture a little bit, and then we'll do a little breath practice at the end so we can practice, okay? Energy locks themselves in yoga, in Kundalini yoga, their purpose is to protect and project. So done right, they help to protect our postural alignment and protect the spine. It build these really, it builds stability in our energetic body and in our physical body, and it helps to project the energy up the spine. Boop, 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 boop. And why we want to do that is because the energy locks, the bandhas, we'll talk about it in like a little hyperspace way, they actually like, they're anti-gravity locks. And so we walk around all day long, we sit, we stand, and then we lay down. And not too many of us do inversions, right? Inversions aren't necessarily the safest poses, especially in the beginning of establishing a yoga practice or a sadhana, or when you're getting back into it. You know, it takes a lot of strength, it takes a lot of stability, it takes a lot of already knowing how to use the body and the different muscles to hold the stability, to go upside down, to do like shoulder stand, to do headstands, to do handstands, these kind of things that you see are glorified in modern yoga practice. And it is just like, sometimes I can't even hold my tongue, But I cringe when I see teachers glorifying handstands, glorifying getting upside down in the beginning stages of your practice, or for new students walking in the studio that day. And because it's dangerous. It's absolutely dangerous. When your body is not stabilized, when your muscles aren't strong enough, and your mind isn't in that steady place, going upside down can cause injury and death. Like, it's serious. And so we use the energy locks in the beginning to help redirect the flow of our energy, and physiologically speaking, the cerebral spinal fluid flowing up and down our spine, and the fluid that our brain floats in. Our brain is kind of like our skull is kind of like a fish tank, and our brain is actually suspended in a fluid, cerebral spinal fluid, and that fluid flows up and down the spine. And the locks from root lock in the perineum, down at the pelvic floor, in between the pubic bone, the sit bone, and the tailbone, when we draw that up, it's like holding yourself from going to the bathroom, but squeezing the sit bones together, lifting the perineum and the pelvic floor, and you can start to feel that. You can do it right now. You can start to feel that, like stopping yourself from going to the bathroom, but deep, and pull it up and in, and you can feel that lift start. And so as we engage root lock, we start to give the signal of the energy. Instead of descending, it's starting to rebound back up the spine. And then I'll get into them more in depth, but then we go into the navel lock. So you pull up on the pelvic floor, lifting, like you're stopping yourself from going to the bathroom, pulling up the sex organs and the sphincter. It's physiological, right? We pull this energy up, the muscles up, and then draw the belly in and draw the diaphragm up, and you can sense, you're like, oh my gosh, and it's like you can feel space being created in your spine. So this is a way that we can start to redirect the energy in the cerebral spinal fluid so it goes up, because constantly gravity is like pulling it down, pulling it down, pulling it down, pulling it down. And why do we want to do that? Is because it refreshes it. Because then when we let go of those, it'll flow again. And so we're creating this undulation and this wave of energy and the cerebrospinal fluid. I keep saying it because it's that refreshing, that is what keeps us fresh and young. There are a lot of different explanations and definitions for a yogi, and one of them is someone with a healthy spine. You know, we only get one spine. We only get one skull. There may be two eyes, two nostrils, two ears, right? But we only get one spine, one nervous system, spreading out. So we really want to take care of it. And we're only as young as our spine. Then the third lock is Jalandhar Bandha, and it's neck lock. And it's really only done when the other two locks are engaged, and the three locks together create Mula Bandha. It's the ultimate lock, right? Because then we're lifting root lock, pelvic floor, the belly, Uddiyana Bandha, the navel lock, and then Jalandhar Bandha. And you can sense when you pull that up and in, it lengthens the back of the neck. It helps to spread the vertebrae right at the top of the cervical spine, so energy and the fluid can flow, right? And so, but what we're doing is we're lifting it. Why else do we want to do that? Well, because gravity, if you let go of all muscle control, you'd fall to the ground, right? So you're already engaging muscles just to sit up straight. You engage muscles to sit, to stand, and unless you're laying down, right, in Shavasana, you're engaging some muscle groups. And Gravity is constantly pulling us down, pulling us down, pulling us down, pulling us down. And eventually, once we do lose, at the end of our lives, some of us lose all muscle control altogether. We can't even get up anymore, right? And then we become one with the earth. We die and we actually decompose and become one with the earth based on its gravitational pull. So the bandhas help us reverse this. They help us stay light. And as we start to lift our energy, our experience gets more subtle, it gets more enlightened, right? Enlightened, like it becomes lighter. We become lighter because we're lifting our energy out of that density of the gravitational pull, and we're starting to operate in the navel, heart, throat, third eye, right? And if we stay consistently up in the third eye or in the crown, we can become like a little ungrounded, right? So there's a lot of ways that we can start to notice based on how we feel and the somatic signals of our body, how we feel, how to apply these different practices. What practices do I need? Do I need a fire practice? Do I need a water practice? Do I need an air practice? These kind of things. And once you start to learn more about your own authentic constitution in Ayurvedic science, the sister science to yoga, and it's a nutritional science. In Ayurveda, there's koshas. There's also koshas in yoga that are the different layers of being, but the koshas themselves in Ayurveda is like explaining our constitution, our natural, authentic constitution. Some of us are more fiery, some of us are more airy, some of us are more watery, some of us are more earthy, right? And so we get to actually start to examine how we're showing up, how our body is exhibiting in reality, and how we live right now, how we react to things, how like our energy levels are we more inclined towards anxiety or depression and these kind of things. And then we can start to apply the different practices, the bandhas, the kriyas, different asanas, postures, and all of it, so that we can come back to a state of equanimity and balance within ourselves. Yeah. My constitution is, I'm like kind of pitta vata. I'm pretty steamy most of the time. I'm fiery, I'm airy. So for me, a lot of my foods, a lot of my practices are earthy. They're like helping me to come and stay grounded, but not so grounded that I'm depressed or I'm lazy or that kind of stuff. It just keeps me in my body, right? And then there's other things, like if laziness and inertness and you're a couch potato, you might want to start doing some fire practices or some more powerful breathing practices, because what it can do is it can enlighten you and it'll lighten your energy and it'll help you gain that energy to break that inertia so that you can come back to life. You can resurrect from a couch potato to someone who does more things, that if that's what you want, And it's all just to make us feel better and happier, more content, more fulfilled in life. And then once we have the baseline taken care of, that's where evolution really starts. A lot of us want to get to places that we currently aren't and we don't know how to get there. Well, that's evolution. We got to let go of certain ways of being, which is the biggest hindrance to becoming somebody new, is that we want to become somebody new. We want to do something new, or we want to do something different, but we also don't really want to let go of what we've been doing. We don't want to let go of who we were. And it doesn't mix, so it keeps us in this limbo state between who we were, which we still are, and who we want to be, which we can't be until we make an offering of our past self. And it's hard. We gotta grieve that. And there's a practice for that too. So, well, that's about 15 minutes about me just like hyperspacing straight up. How we feeling, chat? How does this land on you? If you want to indulge me. Otherwise, we could just go right into some practices. You let me know. Dun, 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 dun. Trying to shed the skin. And so that's where, so technically, right, everybody was like, year of the snake, year of the snake, year of the horse, year of the horse. Blah, 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 blah. Well, we're still in the year of the snake because the people who designed that, their new year is not January 1st. And so we're still in that ripening. We're still in that ripening, right? There's definitely a delay. I think even on my own end, coming into Twitch from my streaming software, there's a delay of like 7 seconds. So I can imagine that it's probably a delay of like 15 seconds or more. And so sorry for the pressure, chat. That's why we gotta take some deep breaths sometimes. And that's why I'm Hyperspace Sky. It's not for anybody else, it's for me to remind myself that I have the tendency to hit the hyperspace button, right? Punch it. Yeah. But we're trying to shed that skin, and how we shed that skin is we just, like, a snake you can't shed the skin that's still attached to you, right? And so we don't really think about the shedding. It's gonna happen. But what we start to think about is the new skin. And how do we protect ourselves in the new skin? We start embodying that new skin, and then all of a sudden, the old skin is like crackling, it's breaking, and this new self is emerging. And it's naturally going to be sensitive. And that's the point of these practices too. That's the point of Kundalini Yoga, is so that we can empower and strengthen ourselves within our sensitivities. We can recognize our vulnerabilities and not cover them up, but power them up. And so we feel more authentic, but we also feel more resonant. And that's why we keep coming back to the navel, right? The navel is a commonly overlooked thing, especially in like, I've been doing quite a bit of research in like personal training and like different workout programs, what people are doing these days. And there's not really, even in like traditional hatha yoga and these kind of things, there's not a lot of emphasis on navel work. You know, you go to a Pilates class and it seems like they took all of the navel exercises out of yoga, renamed them something more modern and I don't know, less, I don't know, like, how can I say this? They just renamed them and then stacked them together. And so it's like a core practice. And that's why people who do Pilates and they like have self-esteem and self-confidence because it's a lot of navel work. And that's the power of the navel center. And so as we go into the rest of the month, and if you come into the Hyperspace Academy or you do personal work with me, we do a lot of navel work because it's something that we have to establish ourselves in, because that's where our true identity becomes strengthened and we build the internal fire enough so that we can face the flames of transformation that is leading us into empowering ourselves in that new skin, right? Let's get back to the bandhas, the energy locks. a lot of these practices have to be felt through the fire and the flames. That's what I think is like the horse. It's like a flaming horse. It's like fire mane, right? I don't know if there's a mythical creature that is a horse of fire, but I'm sure there is. And yeah. Lucifer is the fire horse. Yeah, that's true. That is true. So, the bandhas are specific techniques to lift energy and also focus the energy into Sushumna Nadi, the central energy channel, the spine, right? We have the Pingala Nadi and the Ida Nadi, the solar and the lunar energy channels, which are the masculine and feminine properties and of our consciousness and also of our energy in our body. And they weave across Sushumna Nadi, the central energy channel. And where they cross, where there are 3 nadis crossing, it creates a vortex of energy, and we call those vortexes chakras, and they awaken different dimensions of our experience. Okay, so as we work with the different bandhas, Mula Bandha, Jalandhar Bandha, and Uddiyana Bandha, when we work with these, we're actually helping to raise our energy and stabilize the energy in different zones or dimensions of our body. So when you're lifting just the pelvic floor, you're helping to stabilize the root, the sacrum, the 2 lowest chakras, and you're allowing energy to kind of flow and swirl from the navel up, right? And then when we pull the navel lock, Uddiyana Bandha, whoop, then we're helping to lift energy all the way up into the heart, okay? And then we go all the way up into neck lock, and then we help to stabilize it at the 3rd eye in the brain. So we there's different shelves of energy, and it starts to bring about different energetic experiences, different dimensions of consciousness. So let's do a little bit of practice. We want to do practice. Let's work on Mula Bandha today. We'll incorporate some of the other ones. I think weeks 3 and 4 for the hypersleep journey, we might actually have to get on the mat a little bit. I might have to get out of the chair to show some of the different techniques a little bit easier, right? But for today, we'll just melt in. We'll find a meditative posture. If you're in a chair, just scoot up on the edge of the chair. If you're on a couch, that's okay. I would move to the ground if you could for the next 10 minutes. Find a comfortable seat where you can feel the sit bones actually on the surface beneath you. Right, so if you're in a chair, you're connecting in to the sit bones and really just feeling the root of the body, having it be relaxed. And tuning down to the pelvic floor, in between the sit bones, in between the pubic bone and tailbone, this whole area. It's traditionally taught that Mula Bandha for male bodies is in the perineum and female bodies is in the back of this, is in the back of the cervix, right? So tuning to this specific area. And then we'll start to engage with the breath a little bit. We're not going to pull the lock. We're just going to get ourselves familiar with the area first. So as you breathe in and the diaphragm flattens, the thoracic diaphragm flattens, you can also feel that when you breathe deep down into the belly, the thoracic diaphragm flattens, but also the pelvic diaphragm, the pelvic floor, flattens. The sit bones spread a little bit. There's a little bit of relaxation, and the pelvic floor descends. As you inhale. And then as you exhale, begin to lift the muscles of the pelvic floor. So you'll tilt the pelvis in a posterior tilt. So you're tilting it a little bit back. As you draw the navel in, you'll start to feel the pelvis move in alignment, and that helps to, you're naturally lifting the pelvic floor there. And then inhale again and relax it down. It flattens. And then as you exhale, begin again to lift the pelvic floor. The tailbone points down a little bit more. The pelvis sort of shifts posteriorly. And you're lifting the pelvic floor like up to the navel almost. And then inhale again, relaxing, letting go. And then exhale, lift the pelvic floor, engaging root lock. And in the beginning of learning this, it's okay to like squeeze. It's okay to squeeze up. You don't want to strain, but squeeze up and really start to learn this area and feel what it feels like to lift the energy and the muscles. And then as you inhale, you relax. And keep going. Attention down at the pelvic floor, at the root, Mula Bandha, root lock. Inhale, relax, and exhale, engage and gather it up. And then after some consistency, keep going. After some consistency, you'll be able to pull Mula Bandha up without having to like squeeze the sit bones together, without having to like really engage the larger muscles. You'll start to feel the energetic point of Mula Bandha, and you can start to lift that. Right? You might not be able to today. It takes a little bit of practice. Just keep working with it. And all we're doing is building more awareness of our body. Subtle awareness, somatic awareness, and the awareness of how the body works in tandem with the breath and in tandem with consciousness. Now we'll draw a little bit of the navel into. We did the practice yesterday of Agnisara, right? And it's a challenging practice for a lot of people right out of the gate. It's a challenging practice, and it's okay that it's a challenging practice. A lot of the times it shows us either our control or a lack of control of the abdomen muscles, the abdominal wall, I need to look at my anatomy book. But it shows us the control we have of our navel, or it shows us the lack of control or just the lack of consciousness, right? Because we don't pay attention to it in daily life. There's not a lot of focus on it. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to use the power of the exhale to engage Uddiyana Bandha, which is the navel lock too. So we'll take a deep inhale, thoracic diaphragm flattens, lungs fill, pelvic diaphragm flattens, okay, relaxes. And then on the exhale, start to pull up root lock, pulling up the pelvic floor. Pelvis tilts a little bit backwards so the tailbone tucks under just a little bit. Not a gross movement, but subtle movement. And then at the bottom of the exhale, so no breath, pull the navel towards the spine and the diaphragm up. And then inhale, relax the belly. Thoracic diaphragm flattens, relax the pelvic floor. And then again, start to exhale, pulling root lock up first, and then pull the navel towards the spine, and then the diaphragm up. And then again, inhale, relax, and let's play with this just for a minute. Inhale, relaxing, and exhale, start with root lock, pulling it up and in, and then the belly, up and in. And start to sense how you're directing the energy and how when you hold it at the end and you have root lock engaged and Uddiyana Bandha engaged, that the lower centers are stabilized, so their energy isn't dropping below the thoracic diaphragm at that point, right? And so a couple more times, and then I'll say a couple more things, and we'll be done for the day. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe we'll do a breath practice, and then we'll take it to like 45 minutes if you guys want. But continue to just work with root lock and Uddiyana Bandha. Inhale deeply, relax the belly, relax the pelvic floor, and then exhale, pulling up on the pelvic floor, the sex organs, navel to the spine, diaphragm lifts, and try to hold just for a few seconds. And then inhale again and relax. And see if you can sense like it stabilizes the low spine, right? Across the low back when you do that. It helps to, because you're pulling up and the pelvis is tilting a little bit, it helps to actually take the pressure out of the lower spine as well, which is super beneficial when we're sitting. A lot of us sit a lot of the day, but we also like sink into the seat, and that creates a lot of pressure in our lumbar spine, the lower back. All right, do we want to do a practice for like 5 minutes, breathing practice, and then we can engage the locks? Or do we want to go into a lock practice? Because we can, and I'll stand up and we can go into it. It can be kind of intense. Yes is the answer. All right, Reggie chose it for everybody. So breath to lock. All right. Well, then we're going to do breath of fire because it's a quick and it's quick to build energy, and it's perfect for this practice too because it'll help us to really stay focused on the navel, the pumping of the navel. And then at the end, we'll take 3 deep inhales, each followed by engagement of the locks. And if you want, you can add Jalandhar Bandha, neck lock. It's just by pulling the neck back, pulling the chin back, and lifting the back of the skull up. Right? The point of these two is to not strain. We don't want to strain, because that's it's counterproductive to our mission of relaxation, right? So, all right, we're going to do breath of fire. Is everybody familiar with breath of fire? Probably not. So we'll just teach it really, really quick. Breath of fire is a panting breath, like a dog panting. You can see it, right? Where you pull the navel and the diaphragm up. It's an even inhale and exhale powered by the exhale. Okay, so it's not like a Bhastrika breath where we're like, it's even. Okay, so just practice it. If you got a pant, to get the navel kind of like awakened and controlled. We should have some good energy there just from pulling the locks there in the beginning. And we're going to go for 3 minutes. We're going to start in 10 seconds. So gather yourself. You can close your eyes. Sit up tall. Take a deep inhale. And begin breath of fire. And settle in, find your own rhythm. Maybe a little faster, maybe a little slower than mine. But you want it to be sustainable. So stay with it. If you gotta reset, take a deep breath, because it's a new practice for you, do that, it's okay. There are contraindications to this practice, which I probably should have said in the beginning. But if you have high blood pressure or heart problems, or if you're on your menstrual cycle, don't do breath of fire. You can just do long, deep breaths focused at the navel, right? But for the rest of us, let's keep going. We're about halfway there. Doing great. Try not to think about it. Just focus on the pump of the belly and eyes locked at the third eye, at the brow point. Last 10 seconds. I'm in a deep inhale. Hold the breath, engage, root lock, lifting the energy up, muscles of the pelvic floor up and in, belly in, diaphragm up, hold. Exhale, all the breath out. Another deep inhale. Engage, root lock, Mula Bandha, lifting. Lift, Uddiyana Bandha, navel lock. You can pull the chin back a little bit, lifting through the crown, eyes rolled up. And exhale. One more, deepest inhale. Hold, lift, engage, root lock, navel lock. Focus midbrain, be still. And then exhale. Keep holding the spine tall. If you got a little sparkly, or if you had other sensations arise, if you got a little lightheaded, that's okay. We don't want to pass out, right? If you got to take a breath, always take a breath. And just sense the luminosity up in the brain. Maybe the heart feels a little bit more open, expansive. Just tuning to the energy and the light within. The mind was built, human mind was built and it's conditioned to seek prana. When there's enough prana, energy, life force within the body and it's stabilized, the mind settles down. There's nothing for it to seek. And if there's enough of that stabilization and the prana inside, the mind happily stays put and happily stays looking inward. And this is why we lead into meditation with different practices, is so that we can prepare the mind to sit by working with the body, building the energetic resonance of the body, because that's what the yogis realized thousands of years ago, that the mind was built to seek prana. And we've gotten conditioned in our modern society to seek prana from novelty. We think that dopamine rushes is prana, but it's us expending prana on the things that that the mind is engaged with. Whereas when we engage with the body and energy in this way, we actually deposit it inside. And so we make a deposit into the self, and the mind is like, cool, I'm good. Like I don't need that stuff that I thought I needed. And that's a big part of evolution on the spiritual path as well. And I could go on for another hour, but I won't, because these are supposed to be shorter about detachment and how the detachment is harder when we don't have enough energy and a resonance built for our authentic self, for the mind to stay put. And so detachment in like a good way, like detaching from the toxic patterns that we continue to try to seek prana from, but that leave us drained and unfulfilled, right? And so when we build our energetic resonance, we unlock the energy at the navel, we lift it up, we bathe the brain in prana and this beautiful life force energy. So much of what we were worrying about, so much of what we thought we wanted or we thought was important kind of just falls away. And then we're much more engaged in the present moment, and it's much easier for us to choose that next effective thing to keep our state of peace and to keep prana coming in, building this magnetic resonance of prana coming in, instead of out, 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 out. So, we did it. We did it. And we were so present that it flew by. Flew by. This is the hyperspace portal. Time slows down. And then all of a sudden we're on the other side. And, and we kick our floaty lights around. Beam me up. Hey, that's what it's about. And if you're ready, we're gonna, we'll close out, I don't know, maybe we'll do 28 days of the hyperspace sequence in February. Who knows? Who knows what's to come? But this is, we're doing it. We're doing it again. We're building the resonance that we need. We're going to unlock our hyperdrive in a relaxed way. And yeah, the hyperspace portal is like this concept of moving from where you are to where you want to be in a straight line. And it takes a certain code, and then there's a certain amount of time to get there. It's normally faster than we think. So we fill that time with practice, and not practice like distracting ourselves, practice to become and build our character for who we need to be on the other side of the portal, right? Because if we don't prepare ourselves, we could show up in our new reality and be scrambling, right? We don't want that. So, all right, love y'all. Thank you so much for joining me each night, for developing yourselves. Of course, it is my pleasure, it is my purpose to allow the teachings to pass through me in this way. And I'm grateful. Thank you for letting me live my purpose and for showing up to witness me and engage with yourselves. It's a gift. It's a gift. It's a gift. Sat Nam. Sat Nam. The truth in me will always recognize the truth in you. We are truth. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for day 12. Day 12.